Hello, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lena. And I make college and book related content here on YouTube. And today I will be sharing with you a book haul, but not just any book haul, a library book haul. I first saw one of these types of videos on the Bookish Realms booktube channel. And I fell in love with this idea because the whole consumerism part of booktube is honestly a little sickening to me. I don't have the resources, I don't have the money, and honestly the average person doesn't have either of those things to buy 20 books a month, and it is wasteful. So I really like this idea of supporting our local libraries. This is what I've always done because before I got Book of the Month, I was not getting a new book every month. And I really love going to my library and checking out new and old titles that they may have, so I highly recommend you do that. Our library has curbside pickup, so I put in an order and was able to pick up these books the next day. And I have read one of these books already, and I'm currently partway through the next one, but I will be sharing with you all the books that I picked up and why I chose them. Before I get into the video, if you haven't already, give this video a like and subscribe if you think you are interested. I would love it if you would do so. And now we can get into the video. The first book I chose to check out is Punching the Air by Ibi Zoboi and Youssef Salaam. This book follows the story of Amal Shahid, who is an art student. He makes art and writes poetry and goes to an art school. But when he's 16, he gets into a fight with some of the neighborhood boys, and many of whom are white, and then he is convicted of a crime that he did not commit and sent to prison. This book starts off right with him getting convicted and going right to prison and follows his journey throughout that. For those of you who don't know, Youssef Salaam is part of the Exonerated Five, and this is partly based on his story. This book is written in verse, which I didn't know, and there's also some art interspersed throughout the pages. And it was a really great book. I finished this book. This is my second book that I read of 2021. I thought the writing was amazing. The emotional depth was amazing. I chose this book not only because I saw it on the Bookish Realms channel, that's where I first saw it mentioned, but I've also wanted to read something by Ibi Zoboi for some time now, and I'm glad I did. And I will let you know my final thoughts about this book in my January wrap-up at the end of this month. The next book that I got from the library is the book I'm currently reading, and that is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. This book is science fiction. It's set in the year 2059 in the UK, and it follows our main character, Paige, who is part of the clairvoyance, and her special skill is that she's a dream walker. All of the clairvoyants have these skills that allow them to interact with like the spirit world and really dive into that, and hers is a really rare talent, and she is originally a part of this underground crime gang. But then she is kidnapped and taken to the city of Oxford, which people thought no longer existed. And there she is put into the care of this other character named Warden, who is not clairvoyant, but he does have other magical capabilities. And it's stereotypical. There starts to be some kind of relationship developing between them, but at the same time, Paige is trying to figure out what's truly going on, who's like quote unquote good, who's bad, how she can get her freedom from this awful place that she has been taken to, and how she can protect those that she loves. I am a good way through this book. I'm on page 320. I'm not going to spoil everything that I thought, but I will say I'm not really enjoying this book. I've considered not finishing it multiple times, but I'm honestly too far not to do that. And I'm also someone who really struggles not to finish books. The reason why I picked this book up to begin with is because I've heard really great things about Samantha Shannon. I am not a science fiction person, and that's what this book is, and I am realizing that more and more as I get further and further into this book. I wanted to read the Priority Tree book, which is I think her newer release, and it's part of a different series. So I might still give that a chance, but I don't think I'll be finishing this series because it's really not doing it for me at all. The next book I picked up from the library is Another Brooklyn by Jacqueline Woodson. The book follows the story of August. When she runs into some friends from her childhood, she's instantly transported back to that childhood and those memories from 1970s Brooklyn, where there was lots of friendship and memories and just really good bonding, but at the same time, she is able to start to think about this darker side of Brooklyn, which is not quite as well known. This book is a coming of age story and it's Jacqueline Woodson. That's why I picked it up. I read Right at the Bone this summer, which was not my first Jacqueline Woodson book, but I loved that book. I'm really excited to read this one as well. I've heard that the prose is beautiful. It has so many starred reviews, and I'm really excited to get to this one. Hopefully soon, probably right after I finish the Bone season, so I can have a better book to be reading. The next book I checked out from the library was Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. This book follows the story of William, or Will, who is, his older brother has been shot and killed, and he is in an elevator. He is descending from floor to floor to floor, and each floor I believe he sees or experiences something different. I'm not quite clear about anything beyond that. I do know that it is written in verse, which I'm really excited to get to. Jason Reynolds, I haven't read that much by him, which is kind of embarrassing to say. I read As Brave as You a couple summers ago, and I really enjoyed this. I remember this book coming out. It went on my radar immediately when it came out. I just haven't really got around to reading it. And this semester, when I'm not in school, I decided that now would be a great time to get to it. Jason Reynolds is a fabulous author. I love his work, and I am excited to get to this book as well. The next book that I checked out from the library was The Roundhouse by Louise Erdrich. The book starts with an attack on a woman on a reservation in North Dakota, and her son Joe tries to help his mother, who is the woman who's attacked, and figure out what truly happened to her, but she kind of is withdrawing from him and not willing to say much. Joe becomes so frustrated with what is going on, the investigation that's taking place. He's not getting the answers that he wants and needs, so he bands together with his friends to get to the bottom of this. He is an adolescent and is really dealing with these very adult problems. This book also explores the relationship between the Ojibwe community and the white community that surrounds it. One of my New Year's resolutions was to read more Indigenous books with Indigenous voices and Indigenous stories. And I have wanted to read Louise Erdrich for quite some time now. I've always wanted to read a book by her, and I saw that our library had this, so I picked it up immediately. I've heard great things about her as an author with all books that she writes, and I've heard really great things about The Roundhouse particularly. So I'm excited to get to this, and hopefully I read it this month. We'll see what happens. And the next book that I got from the library was Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is yet another book in verse. I am just realizing how many books in verse that I checked out. That was not intentional. I guess it just kind of happened. It tells the story of two girls, Camino Rios and Yajaira Rios, and Camino is waiting for her father to arrive in the Dominican Republic, but when she gets to the airport, all she sees is crying people. Rios receives the news that her father's plane crashed and that he is dead. These girls are actually sisters, and they did not know that the other one existed, and they're coming to terms with the fact that their father is dead and that they have this other sister across the ocean. This is my third book that I've read by Elizabeth Acevedo. I read The Poet X first, and then I read Fire on High, and now I'm reading Clap When You Land. I will say that I loved The Poet X. I was really impressed with that book. Fire on High, not as impressed with it. I think I gave it like 3 out of 5 stars, but I've heard good things about this book, so I wanted to give it a chance. And the last book that I checked out from the library is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. Diana Bishop is a scholar who is studying in the Oxford Library, and she comes across this manuscript that she's sure has something to do with magic. She comes from a long line of witches, but she thinks that this book will only bring trouble, so she just sends it back to the stacks. But before she knows it, all of these other demons and vampires and other magical creatures are showing up, and clearly this book or manuscript means more than she thought it did. One of the people to show up is Matthew, who is a vampire, and they start a romance that's pretty obvious. And this book has a lot of things going on. They say it's romance, it's historical, it's magical, all of those things. I actually had never really heard of this book. I think it's a pretty well-known book, but I had seen the ad for the TV show on my Goodreads account, I think. I'm not really sure, but I saw the ad for the TV show, and I realized that it was a book, and then I realized that my library had it, and I'm just kind of in the mood. Winter is when I like to read these like fantasy books, and I thought that the Bone season was going to pull through for me on that front, and it did not, so I'm hoping that this book will do so for me. I'm excited to see what this book holds, And I am not someone who reads a lot of vampire and witch and that kind of magic story. I do read lots of fantasy, but just not a lot of vampire stuff. The book also has that whole historical component, which I think has a great deal of potential. It will make me enjoy it quite a bit more. Not sure if I'll get to it this month, but hopefully, because it's a pretty big one. But because I have so many books in verse, maybe I'll be able to do so. So those are the 7 books that I checked out from my library. I would have loved to check out more, but the reality of it is I'm trying to work and read at the same time. I can't check out as many books as I would want to. As always, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you have any video recommendations, book recommendations, questions about books, questions about college, questions about anything really, feel free to leave it down in the comments below, and I will see you all next week.